Hannah Ainger was born in Tendring in 1819, and when she was 20 she married, in this very church, to Thomas Ham. He was a local blacksmith. They moved to Wicks and they raised a family. By 1847 they'd come back to Tendring. Thomas was working as a journeyman blacksmith and he wasn't earning a great deal of money, so Hannah was higgling. This meant that she travelled around in a horse and cart, trading things like eggs and poultry and bread. But it was also rumoured that she was using that horse and cart to head back up to Wicks, which is a few miles that way, for assignations with a farmer called John Southgate. Thomas fell gravely ill, and he died in only a couple of days. The surgeon who'd been attending him gave the cause of death as a ruptured blood vessel. He was buried in this churchyard, and only a couple of months afterwards, again in this church, Hannah Ham married John Southgate. A year went by. Mary May was executed at Chelmsford for the murder of her half-brother, and the locals started to think, who else could have been bumping their family members off? Suspicion fell on Hannah. After all, her husband had died very suddenly, and she had got married in rather indecent haste afterwards. An inquest took place at the Crown Inn, which is just next to the church, and Thomas was exhumed. At the resumed inquest, so many people wanted to come that they had to hold it in the village school, and that's the red brick building you can just see behind me there. At this inquest, it was revealed that Professor Taylor had found a huge amount of arsenic inside Thomas's body, and Hannah was sent to Chelmsford to await trial for his murder. She was 6 months in Chelmsford jail, and at the April Assizes in 1849 she stood trial. She was very lucky to have a barrister from the Old Bailey called Ballantyne, and he was involved in some quite famous Victorian trials, such as that of the Tichborne claimant. He drove a bulldozer through the circumstantial evidence that was presented at the trial. Yes, obviously Thomas had died of arsenic poisoning. There was no way that you could deny that. But all of the evidence presented was village gossip and malicious tittle-tattle. All of it suggesting that Hannah was a woman of loose morals, and if she transgressed in that way, well, who knew what other crimes she could be guilty of? Ballantyne wasn't having any of it, and Hannah was acquitted. She and John didn't come back to this area, unsurprisingly enough, and they moved to London, where they lived under an assumed name. It's not surprising, given that they were running an eating house. Had I, as a Victorian, popped in for a nice chop for my lunch and discovered that a woman involved in the Essex poison panic had cooked it, I probably would have lost my appetite quite quickly. But that wasn't the end of the poison panic, because back in 1848, after the results of the test had shown that Thomas died of arsenic, suspicion moved from Tendring to Ramsey, which is over here, and that's where we're going to go next.